report came out earlier this year. This was a survey with just over 500 marketers globally, and the survey ran 2024 in December to January 2025. So we're talking about very early 2025 data here, but over half of those responses came from director level marketers, and the sectors represented cover technology, life science, financial services, retail, professional services, and media and communications. So there's some nice takeaways here if we look at the life sciences segment in there in terms of our own industries. The quote that I've pulled out here is from Jasper's CMO, and what she is really taking away from this data is that AI is moving in much the similar way to previous technological revolutions in marketing. So there's been a period of initial experimentation, and where we are now moving to is the phase where leaders are defining best practices, documenting use cases, putting policies in place, putting guidelines in place, and trying to integrate AI into the business. So she thinks we're in a year of scale. So I'm really interested to, when we get the discussion, whether that is reflected in our own organizations. What was in the data that I'm going to pull out, I'm just taking a few cherry picked results, and I will share a link to the full report for those who want to dig through it. But some of the takeaways here is that it's still really early days. So even though the CMO would have us believe that we're moving to this year of scale, only 63% of marketers are using generative AI at all, and most of that use started in 2024. So 78% only started experimenting with AI in 2024. There is in here a sense that there are more who are planning to experiment as well. So that bottom left there, 27% are not using but are considering. So we're very much still in the early days of considering. The other 2 points on here that suggest that there is early days is kind of comparing that use of ad hoc applications versus where larger marketing teams are. So that 56% who are using AI are using these in what they're referring to as an ad hoc siloed way. So we're going to look at maturity from this report as well, but there's very few marketing teams who have formalized the process of how they use AI or are moving beyond that kind of ad hoc pilot experimentation. And if we look at headline results in terms of how AI is being used, I don't think this will look surprising to any of you. The majority of that is sitting in content creation and idea generation, and then just under 50% for research and analysis and SEO, and then much lower for those other use cases. So we are going to be asking you about yours, just to keep that in mind. What's also interested in here is what's presenting barriers to some other types of usage. So data privacy came up as one of the biggest barriers at 21% and output quality at 19%. Lower level challenges were coming out around expertise, around budget, about leadership support. And again, we will dig into that a bit more. So I wanted to focus it this way. One of my most interesting takeaways from this report is that difference in the size of team in terms of what that means for the speed of adoption, how sophisticated that uptake is, and what does that look like in terms of infrastructure. And there's a real disparity between those small teams who might be faster to take up opportunities and experiment, but have limited infrastructure, have limited support to do anything to formalize that. We then have medium teams who are scaling and have ambitions to do more, but they don't feel like they've got the leadership support or the focus on the quality that you then see at that large team or that enterprise level teams. So I'll show you some more of that data, but what is interesting is where you get to the large team structures, you're seeing much more focus on governance and on platform integration. So about taking it into the organization. So looking at those in a little bit more detail. So the small teams is where the report refers to AI's use as being a creative accelerator. So lots of these smaller teams where we're talking about less than 100 marketers or revenue of less than 100 million, they're enthusiastic experimenters. They're capturing early wins from AI. They've actually been speedier to put AI oversight in place, like an AI council, because they can move quicker to do that. But what they are finding is that they lack structure to scale. So there's concerns about data privacy and budget primarily, And as you can see, there's low opportunity to measure from the success of what they're putting in place. If we compare that to data on the large teams, so there we're talking about 1,000+ size marketers, so out of the leagues of what we're talking about in our own industry potentially, and over 1 billion revenues, the focus here is much more on quality and brand governance. So AI is being adopted earlier, and they're moving towards documenting the process, putting policies in place, even though, as I mentioned, the smaller organizations have been quicker with things like AI councils. What they have reported is that they've got senior level buy-in and they've got senior leaders who are actively using AI. If you compare those concerns, you're also seeing that shift from what was around data privacy or budgets being quality and brand governance. So it's much more about how are they using this across the organization. What I also found interesting is this comment around domain-specific tools. So we've moved from the general use of AI, like ChatGPT. So the report found that that sort of general AI use decreases as marketing teams expand. So the bigger the team, the more likely they're using domain-specific, so in our case, marketing-specific tools. And that seemed to tie up with this last point on here. So where those domain-specific tools are in place, there is much higher demonstration of ROI. We're obviously very keen to hear all your thoughts on this. So I'm going to end before we move into discussion around what do the traits of really advanced AI organizations look like. These are what the report has called out as very advanced maturity for organizations. So we're seeing that documentation of use cases, that sharing of knowledge and best practice. So 75% of very advanced AI adoptive teams are putting use cases in place and making it possible for others to learn from that best practice. There's continued experimentation, so nearly 60% are still testing. Over half are saying that they have the leadership buy-in, and we know where that sits in terms of what does that mean from that commitment to support the rest of the organization. And then workflow. So we've got that integration of AI into how people are working every day. ROI, as I've said, is definitely sitting at those more advanced maturity organizations. So are they able to measure whether the AI resources that they've put in place are working? Governance. So we've got 79% of very advanced organizations have that AI council. And then we also have in here some of those other indicators that there is governance in place around training, around document and policies. And then lastly, this point about general versus specific domain adoption. So this is what the report has called out in terms of mature organizations. What I also want to call out is the life sciences has the lowest AI formalization rate in the report. It comes across as the most cautious sector in terms of AI's impact on roles and workflows. And it also has privacy and compliance as the primary inhibitors of adoption. So essentially, it's suggesting that life science marketers are uncertain about how AI is going to work for them. I'm going to leave that thought with us as I ask for your feedback. So if you can hop over to Menti, we would love to hear how you're all feeling about the adoption of AI.
I like the ideation around it. It gives a lot more perspective. I guess, it being new, I like to, be optimistic about it and not think about, the negatives that come with it. But I try to use it to my advantage and, mainly for ideation and, more perspective.
Awesome, thank you. I'm just trying to pull up the Menti so you can all see that. Let me just try and get that up. Can everybody see this? Can I make it bigger? Everybody see this?
We can see it, yes. Me too, we can.
Awesome, thank you. Keep voting. Really interested to hear where you would place yourself based on some of those indicators of maturity.
Means I'd like to revise my.
Are you changing it? All right, so definitely I am sensing that we all feel on the lower end of this scale, which is not surprising given that what we heard about the life science community in this report and the size of our organizations. I'm really looking forward to you all getting a chance to discuss that in our breakouts. I'm just going to pull up the next one. So if you want to also put your thoughts in on where you're using AI in your teams.
Mitu, I think you can only choose one option. Is that right?
Oh no. Right, well, it's going to be just your top choice then for now.
I
Sorry,
feel like I
guys.
just selected
That's...
multiple, but maybe it just took the first one I clicked.
I had thought I'd set it up for multiple. Apologies for that.
But it's not on mine unless it is different for others, but it's just showing one.
I don't know which of mine it took then.
Very sorry about that. If nobody is offended, I will resend this out so you can fill it in completely because we'd quite like to write this up as well.
It might be actually more valuable because.
With your top ones?
Yes, with the top one.
Well, look at that. I think we have almost a winner with a few backups. It's still changing as we go. Well, what I'm going to do, since we are short of some of our group today, is I will send it around anyway, but I will keep it as is so I don't destroy the data. All right, I'm just going to pull the slides back up. What we're now going to do then is invite you all to join us in a breakout for some conversation. And I'm gonna just quickly talk you through these questions. If somebody wouldn't mind screenshotting this and dropping it in the chat, then you've got those questions as well.
I'll do that.
Thank you, Kin. So again, these are what the report calls out as evidence of maturity within organizations for use of AI. So what we'd like you to discuss is what has your team experienced in terms of gains, so the positive wins from using AI, and I'd like you to come back with your thoughts on what the top three are. We'd also like to hear the opposite end and where there are pain points in getting to increased maturity with AI use. So where are your pain points? And again, choose your top three when you come back. So what if you have time within your groups and you don't find that there's just so much to talk about, we'd also love to hear your opportunities for scaling AI adoption. But start with gains and pains and we'll see where we get to. So we've got 25 minutes in groups, and Zita, I think we should be set up to